by the time I finished the double unders and the wall balls, I was so mentally broken that couldn't even get under the yoke. Like I picked it up once and like a baby deer legs. Like I just couldn't walk with it. I just dropped it immediately. And I think I timed out, which was like 10 minutes, by the way. That was a 10-minute mark. And that was the first event. And I was just I was already traumatized by what was going to happen for the rest of the day. Anyway, second event. Okay, welcome back to the Iron Road podcast. My name is Ian DiGiacomo, your host, here with my dear co-host, Eric Prush. Eric, sir, how are you today?
Horrible. I'm absolutely horrible.
Tell me why.
I'm just, I told myself when we started this podcast, I'm like, I'm going to compartmentalize this. I'm just going to talk about training. And I realize I can't do that because then, like, you guys will just wonder why I'm so angry all the time and you'll think I'm a psycho. And I may be a psycho, but it's for valid reasons. So Ian and I are both from New York. Ian, in true Snake Plissken fashion, he escaped from New York before I did. He is living his best life in the Republic of Ron DeSantis. And I've yet to make that move. And so this past week, my family and I went to scope out Virginia. We have some friends down there. We were looking at houses, looking at communities and everything. And I was just telling Ian, like, if you're not from New York or like I'd imagine if you're from LA, you might feel this way too. When you leave, it's so freeing. There's just less traffic. The people are nicer. The roads have more nature. Okay, like people obey the rules of the road. Like there's all sorts of like if you're not from around here, you just don't get it. But then the way back, it just crushes your soul. Like every inch of progress you make, you are willingly driving back into hell. And then once you get like to northern Jersey, it's just crushing. It's just over. There's just traffic everywhere. Distances that would take you 25 minutes to travel, in this case in Virginia, or like in on the highways of, say, southern Maryland or Delaware even. They take an hour and 5 minutes because you're going 15 miles an hour the entire time. It's just chaos, dude. It's just, I can't wait to get the hell out of here. I'm just done with it. I'm done with it. It sucks. It's
just getting so crowded. It's getting so crowded. I love growing up there on Long Island, but I just felt that the area is not getting any bigger. They're not adding any new roads or infrastructure to support the growing population. And it's just, you're getting buried if you live in New York, in my opinion. Some people like the hustle and bustle, which I don't. I like open roads. I like less traffic. I like slower pace suburbs. That's where I'm at. So
I even think those people are delusional, though. Like, look, no, but I'm being like serious. Like, there were people that don't want to leave prison because they don't know what the outside world is like. I mean, seriously, like you get institutionalized. Like you do. Like I will admit that I will be sad when I move, mostly because I'll miss my jiu-jitsu training partners, and it'll be a new adventure or whatever.
Miss the people.
But by the same token, so many of my friends have already pulled an Ian, or are in the process of trying to pull an Ian and get out of here. And it's like, okay, I'm going to be the last person, holding the bill, so to speak. And I just don't want that. So like, I think some people you just get so used to it. You can't see your life any other way. And like the way I would say this connects to training is like, think about what you do every day. That could be the rest of your life, right? If you don't change what you eat, how you live, like that's what you see in the mirror is the rest of your life, or worse, frankly, due to aging or, whatever is going on. So like you could stay here and just grind it out. But before you know it, you're going to be 50 and you haven't been happy the past 10 years, right? And like, thankfully, training, I think, has taught us both, and this is why I think it's so important, the power of change, taking initiative, like taking control of your body. And if you can do that, well, you could start from there and use that confidence in other areas of your life, like uprooting your life, or like you starting a new business, moving to a new state with a new family. Like these are challenges that, not everyone can meet because they haven't challenged themselves in other areas. Like us, through training, through jiu-jitsu, like you learn how to take initiative and you realize, oh, if I don't change my training, I'm going to look this shitty forever, or I'm going to be this weak forever. And you have to understand this is the rest of your life unless you do something. And like, I think that's the initiative to get out of here. And I think the desire or the ability to do so comes from the fact that I've been able to do it on a smaller level, as have you.
Yes, I think it's important. Somebody told me recently that I am very action oriented, and some people are
Oh
very
yeah.
like planning oriented, where some people never make it past the plan, and some people focus so much on the details and being a perfectionist that they never put the plan into action. So I think Nicole and I are very happy in Florida. We moved down here a little over a year ago. It's been great. I just feel like people are happier, the lifestyle is better. I am a summer creature personally. I love the heat. I love being in the sun, being by pools. I was at a pool once every other year in New York, maybe,
Mhm.
or if I went on vacation to the tropical area, some sort of Caribbean destination. Now I'm twice a week. I'm in a pool. It does make your life a lot better in a lot of ways if you're that kind of person. Some people want mountains, some people want snow. I don't want any of that. I just want heat. I want to boil, and I just want to be around happy people. And that seems like most people are just happy to be here, honestly. And most people
Well,
are transplants. Most people aren't from Florida, from where
yes.
I am. I'm in
Yes.
Port St. Lucie, so it's an up and coming area. It's still heavy populated, but I find that most people are from New York. Most people are from the
Yeah.
Northeast, and they're all just stoked to be here. So we're all in the same mentality of we made it. Like we made it out. You know, our money goes farther for property down here and all that good stuff.
Oh yeah,
It's a
dude.
good feeling. It's a good
Dude, the
feeling.
houses I was looking at, I'll get into numbers with you off air, but let's just
Sure.
say like half of what I paid for my house on Long Island
Yes.
gets me more bedrooms bordering a golf course. I don't even golf. Honestly, it's
Now you have the option.
but it's more just like if you live off a golf course, it's kind of like a code for I live in a good neighborhood.
Yes.
Like it's
Yeah,
like it's just a
it's a
guaranteed,
feature.
like, yeah, like, okay, the people here are like not psychopaths, or at the very least not violent psychopaths. Maybe they're like, fucking like American Psycho or something, but that's a little bit different.
Yeah.
They're not like they're not going to steal my car. You know what I mean? I'm not planning on getting into prostitution, so they probably won't kill me anytime soon. But
As long as we have an eggshell white business card.
Do you like Huey Lewis in the news, Eric? But you're seeing those types of things. But it's funny. I think sometimes if you come from a place where you're miserable, and I thought about this. So I woke up, I trained jiu-jitsu with a friend of mine. I was checking out academies down there because that's a big way that you meet people, right?
Sure.
You got to go out and train and everything. So a friend of mine took me to his academy, met all the guys there. The next day I woke up and I was like, I'm going to do some cardio. We had an Airbnb. The Airbnb gave us access to the gym, like a days in gym that was like around the corner.
Okay.
So I go in and there's like 3 cardio machines, like, a multi-purpose, pull down press thing or whatever. And this gym just smelled like what you'd expect a gym on the beach to smell like in a hot area. Just vile. It was just like I walked in. It was so small. I was like, what am I doing? So I just
smell
went
the bacteria.
Yeah, it was just disgusting. So I went for a run on the beach because we were literally right on the beach. We were in Virginia Beach. And as I'm running, I'm like, okay, I am so used to being miserable from living in New York that like my brain actually freaks out at the prospect of being happy every day because I'm so used to just like this environment, just the traffic, the people making me miserable. And I had this thought, I was like, I'm not naive enough to think that I'll be happy every single day. Of course, the world doesn't work that way. But as I'm running down there, I'm like, I could do this every day. Have this little thing to look forward to that I could never have in New York. And granted, there's always going to be problems. Kids are annoying. You fight with your wife, whatever.
Sure.
Okay. But at least the environment isn't trying to kill me anymore in the way that I feel like it is in New York. And that was kind of the vibe. A lot of the people, the houses that we were looking at, it was quite funny. They all had sports merchandise in them. None of these people were even from Virginia Beach. They were from Kansas City, Philadelphia. It was the same type of thing. It was almost like a person that moves to Virginia Beach is either A, in the military because there's military bases all over there. Okay.
Okay.
B, they want to move, but they don't like the heat as much as you do. So they still want seasons. Like, they don't want to get buried in the snow. Okay. But they still want seasons. Okay.
That makes sense.
So like it still is a similar thing. and the people are all really happy, and I'm like, I got to get the fuck out of this place. I got to get out of New York. It was just immediate, like, time
Yeah.
to go, But anyway, on a different note, I know I wanted to talk to you about your strongman misadventure from a few years ago, but
Yes.
the other day, I was in a really bad mood. Surprising. Okay. And,
You? What?
and sometimes when I'm in a bad mood, I can admit, I'll put on a movie or something to kind of pump me up, make me feel a little better. It could be
Nice.
something like Bloodsport or Rocky. But in this case, I hadn't seen the Christopher Nolan Batman movies in a really, really long time. Right. So I personally, even though I would admit that The Dark Knight is the best one, my personal favorite is The Dark Knight Rises, the last one.
Really?
It's
Controversial
I can admit
topic.
that it's not as good. I just like it better. It's
What's
kind
your
of like,
personal favorite?
listen,
Yeah,
I
okay.
like Rocky 4 better than Rocky 1. Rocky 1 is a better movie, but I would rather watch
Yes.
Rocky 4
All
all
day.
day. Yeah, I mean, it's
All
not even
day.
a question. Yeah, it's not even a question. But as I'm watching this, my meathead brothers out there understand this. Ian gets this. When you see a movie like this, your brain can't help but go to like, okay, what would this guy have to do to be able to actually pull this off from like a physical perspective? Like, what would Bruce Wayne have? So even if we factor the money out, I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, how much drugs does he have to be on to fucking pull this off? Like, to recover every night and just like stay in shape and just like beat the shit out of criminals with his bare hands, and like his body's getting all mangled. And I'm like, he's got to be taking, like, Batman's got to be on a minimum testosterone, human growth hormone. He has to be. It's not
What's
even a
his
question.
stack?
Okay, Batman's steroid stack is
The
got to
Batman
be
stack. Yeah.
testosterone, growth hormone. He's got to be taking EPO for the stamina, because you got to figure when you get gassed, it's over. You die. It's a wrap. Like,
Yeah.
you can't get tired. So he's definitely taking EPO. Okay, he's got to be taking BPC 157 and TB 500 just to heal up like the litany of injuries that he has. He's just constantly outmanned. He's getting hit with like glass bottles. He's getting stabbed. Like, dogs are attacking him. It's completely outrageous. Okay. And he has to be taking like one like additional anabolic. He's probably taking like Anavar to maintain muscle so he doesn't have to lift as much. So more of his recovery goes into actually being Batman. Because you got to figure at that point how much recovery. He probably can't lift more than like 2 days a week, right? I mean, if you're Batman like 6 nights a week, okay, and it's getting real aggressive, like, got to figure 2 of those nights are real hard.
Is
like,
that the assumption that he's doing it 6 nights? Maybe he's only doing it 3 nights a week and he spaces it out. What do we ever have like an overview of his schedule?
No,
How many
never.
hours on? When he
Trust me,
punches
I
the
watched.
clock?
I was like, I really want to understand like how you could pull this off. Maybe he's only doing it 3 nights a week. I'm sure it's on demand. I'm sure it might average to 3 or 4. It might be 7 on sometimes. You got a real threat like the Joker you're dealing with, and then maybe you just got a couple like bums that are running numbers on the corner. It's like, do I even need to punch in? Just put the fucking signal up and they just run away. Like who cares? This is not a huge deal. But like, as I'm looking at it, I'm like, this dude's got to be on so much shit. And then on top of that, as Bruce Wayne, you got to figure he's got to be getting like stem cells like all day, like constantly just going getting like stem cells, like platelets. Like, how could you keep this up? This is an insane pace. Like, it's and it's not like there's any margin for error. Like, if you and I go in, you have your numbers written down, your deadlift's a little off. Like, oh fuck, I'll take some pounds off the bar. I'll just grind out some work today. You can't have a bad night as Batman. You're just dead. It's over.
No,
it's over. You're just dead. Like, people are going to beat you to death. It's not even
one
a question.
crony gets behind you and you don't realize it. You're out. You're done.
So and then I'm like, he's got to be taking like amphetamines or like Provigil or something, like to have like if he knows it's going to be like a heavy driving night. If he's going to be if he's got to have some sick hand-eye coordination, he's got to have something that he takes where he's just methed out of his mind. And then on top of that, if you're taking the meth and you're obviously nocturnal, he's got to be on sleeping pills. There's got to be some way that he gets himself. Yeah. He's basically like a healthier pro wrestler. Okay, he's just not taking the
when he has to go, and then downers when he's got to sleep.
He's just. I mean, I'm looking at it, but I guess that's the reason why I liked the third one, was because, first of all, I liked the idea that Batman was physically outmatched, which I thought was a cool thing about the Bane character. It's a different flex, because the other two movies he's just beating up everybody, and it's more of like a mental thing for him than a physical thing.
Yes.
But I liked the scene in the Dark Knight Rises as the training nerd, where he goes to the doctor, and the doctor's like, "Your body's destroyed," and he's basically like, "You have no cartilage in your knees and elbows or whatever. You have no connective tissue. Your shoulders are fucked." Like I like that. Unlike most other superhero movies where it's just like, oh, they just can just do this in perpetuity and like there's no problem.
Yeah.
It's like you see like the physical wear and tear on this person, like how unsustainable this is. And I guess that's kind of why I enjoy those movies. It's much grittier. And as an aside, apparently before those movies got made, the guy that played the Punisher, Thomas Jane, in one of the Punisher movies, he signed on to do the Punisher under the agreement that he would do like one comic-y Punisher, which he did, and then one gritty Punisher. And Marvel Comics, think about what a fuck up this is, told him there's no audience for a gritty Punisher. We're not going to do it. Okay?
There's more audience for gritty movies. 100%.
Like and so what happens is, in that Punisher comes out in 2003, Batman Begins comes out in 2005. And Nolan basically shows them like, this is how it's done, but there's only two characters that you could do that with. It would be Batman, because he's not a superhero. He doesn't have powers, okay?
Sure.
Or the Punisher. Like, that's what you would need. You would need, like, those two guys are the only people that you could do, like, the hardcore, like, gritty reboot. And as far as I'm concerned, they both would need the same stack. The Punisher has an advantage because he is totally content to shoot you from, like, 200 yards away. Right, like he's smart enough. Like he's like, I'm gonna blow you away with a sniper rifle. Like
he will kill people, right? Batman doesn't kill people. That's his thing, right? So Batman will just beat you up, and which is not that scary after a while. Like, why are criminals really that afraid of him?
I totally agree, especially with like it's like, if we're talking about like, okay, let's say we're forced to live in New York City, and it's a disaster, and we have to like draft a person to clean it up. I'm going Punisher all day.
Yeah, because you can't have these guys out again.
Even if you just kill 1 in every 10, okay, it's just
a tone.
Yeah, just that it's on the table. Like you know what I mean. Like it doesn't have to be every single one of them. It's just like, all right, like 1 in every 25 gets whacked. Like it'll sharpen up real quick.
It's a good ratio. It's a good ratio.
Yeah. But that was what I was thinking as I was watching it. I'm like, how could a human being possibly sustain this? And as just one kind of, I guess, closing note on that, I didn't know this, but that whole saga, he was only really Batman. Like, I guess from Batman Begins to the end of The Dark Knight within that storyline is just 1 year. And then he takes 7 years off, and then he comes back as Batman. So I thought that it was cool that, like, he obliterated himself in a year. They show the mental wear and tear, like how this is completely unsustainable. No human being could ever possibly keep this pace up. It's like, if this city doesn't fix itself, I'm probably going to die on the job because this is impossible to deal with. But that's all I was thinking. I'm like, this guy's got to be on so much shit. I'm like, if you were like, Eric, you need to be Batman. Like, I know what I would take. I'm ordering Mexican supplements immediately. Just crates and crates and crates of them.
But then he went from Bruce Wayne to Ronnie Coleman now. So
yes.
completely ruined his body. But Ronnie at least had 20 good years of training, whereas Bruce had a year, you said, before his cartilage was gone. And
but again, like,
joint replaced.
He's jumping down like flights of stairs and just landing on his knees. Like it's like, dude, this is like, you have to be, and that's another reason why I like those movies. Like, there's no denying that the Bruce Wayne is a deranged person in those films. Like, he's a dark person. It's like, yeah, you'd have to be a sick person to want to do this to yourself. Yeah. Like, there's like you're a crazy person. Like, it's like, that's what it comes down to. But as I watched it, I'm like, yeah, man, this is so well done. Also, because so many of the Nolan movies, all of the stunts are practical. There's very little CGI.
Yeah.
So like, I'll close with this. The scene in The Dark Knight, I had looked this up. One of the best chase scenes ever, when they're transporting Harvey Dent in the back of the SWAT van, right? And the Joker shows up in the truck, and Batman's in the fucking tank that he's driving around. So they custom designed a bike, like a motorcycle for Batman for that movie. And it's like, the tires are obviously much thicker than regular tires when you see them. And they were like, all right, well, we have to find a way to be able to drive this thing. So apparently, oh my God, who played Batman again? Christian Bale was a motorcycle enthusiast, and he was like, I'll do it. And he couldn't do it. He kept like turning it and would just wind up like pitting him to the floor like every single time. So they called in some like French dude who was like a motorcycle stunt expert, and he was actually able to drive it. And then they were like, okay, well, how are we going to pull this off? Because Christian Bale is Batman. And they're like, dude, just put the fucking costume on him and have him do all the stunts, which is exactly what they did. And so he's really driving this thing like through a shopping mall and doing all of this crazy stuff. And it's just some random dude that was really talented from France. And they just fucking put the Batman costume on him and had him pull it off. And it's like,
it's the
no
easiest
joke.
guy. It's the easiest character to give a stunt double to.
Exactly.
You can literally put the entire suit on him, and anybody could be in that
yes,
suit.
Exactly.
Anyone.
That's why when I heard that, I'm like, that's a dilemma. Like, just the whole thing is based around, as long as he doesn't have a mustache or he's not a black guy, like, we're good. Like, what do you mean? Like, it's like, we've got this. This is no problem. Like, this is problem solved. Like, what are you talking about? Anyway,
now, real question for you. So,
sure.
On the real life guy, so Christian Bale went from machinist.
This is true.
Which he got down to, I think it was around 120 pounds, and I could be wrong, 120, 130 pounds at like 6 feet tall.
Mm-hmm.
And then his next movie was Batman Begins, which was the first of that trilogy. And he was apparently up to, again, you never know if they really tell the truth about the height and weight of these actors, but he was up to 220 pounds and very heavily muscled when he did his, shirtless scenes and whatever. Being let's say, knowledgeable on PEDs, what do you think? Do you think he actually had to use that? And I don't know the time frame between movies, if it was realistic to put that much size back on.
It's a great question. So,
but what are your thoughts on that?
I'll say this. The most muscle mass I've ever put on in a brief period of time was actually not my the stint I just had working with Justin Harris.
Sure.
It was in 2009. I was still doing jiu-jitsu, and I was competing at a very light weight class, like I want to say like 205 or something, right? And I had a crazy metabolism, still do. I was working out twice a day, every day, and I just started to hate grappling. I don't want to get into why. The sport just wasn't what it was. It's not what it is now. It was. Okay. There was just instruction wasn't as good. There was less ways to win. If you couldn't do what your coach did, you couldn't win. Nowadays, a good coach can show you how to win for your body type. And so I decided, you know what? I'm just going to start lifting. And this is shortly before you and I met. And I was shredded 205, 207, changed nothing except stopped doing cardio and stopped doing jiu-jitsu and kept lifting. I was 240 pounds in no time. My body was so lean. Everything was like so perfectly situated metabolically. Like I was just ready to go. Like I had all the calories already coming in, but all I had to do was take away some of the physical activity, which of course improved recovery. Okay. And I put on so much weight. Now, I was taking testosterone back then, but I was not blasting drugs back then. Okay. I was taking like a TRT dose because that's what guys did for jiu-jitsu. Okay. So it is eminently possible to transform your body with minimal drugs, assuming that you have discipline, a time frame to do it, help. What makes the machinist thing somewhat possible was that he got so skinny. I feel like there's a certain point where the rebound coming from that is natural. Now, to your point, he showed up supposedly weighing 225 pounds, and he was so big, they were like, you have to actually lose weight to fit in the costume.
Oh, yeah.
Like he was so big. Where it gets murky with actors is guys like us, well, not me and you because we're not dumb, but people like us who can be dumb, they don't understand that not everybody loves to train. Not every actor loves to train.
No,
okay?
Few probably.
Like not everyone's like Stallone, who's going to be training no matter what. Okay, and all he's got to do is change his diet and make a few tweaks here and there, and he's gonna be shredded for his next movie or whatever. Like, I don't know that Christian Bale loves to train. Maybe he does, and I really have no idea. But like, does he actually know how to lift? Is he really that into the discipline and all of the parts of training the way that other actors might be. Like if he wasn't, yeah, he probably would take PEDs just to get it done in a shorter period of time as possible. The fact is, if someone offered me a movie role and I had to put on 75 pounds to play Bane, I would do it. You know what I mean? Because the money is fantastic, okay?
Sure.
And you do whatever you have to do. It doesn't mean you look that way forever, okay? But you do what you have to do. I'll say this, on the pro natty side of this, the more I've been blessed to have been around a lot of really intelligent people as it pertains to like film, camera stuff, lighting. Dude, like you take me or you put us in the right lighting with a pump, you will look so much better than you think you look.
Oh, yeah.
And this is something that like I did not understand for a very long period of time. And I was like self-hating, like, man, why can't I look as good as like Stallone in Rambo 3? And then finally it was like, okay, you don't have a tan. These guys are pumping up before every shirtless take.
They're oiled up.
Yeah, exactly. And they're getting a
Perfect
pump.
lighting.
Everything is perfectly situated.
Yeah.
So, you could be 8% body fat and look 5% body fat fatter than an actor because of angles and lighting and everything like that. On top of that, a lot of movies will film the shirtless scenes. Like I know with the Rocky movies, a lot of times they film the fight scenes first because like the guys are dieting so hard. Why would you make them diet the entire length of the production?
Yeah.
Just do it right away. And then they're putting their shirts on. It doesn't matter. You know what I mean? So if Christian Bale shows up and there's only a few scenes in Batman Begins where he is shirtless, it's like, film those first. Okay. Do whatever the hell you got to do. Throw on the bat suit or whatever. Like you're fine. Like it doesn't matter. Yeah. I would believe both. I would believe that he was natural and I would believe that he did drugs. And again, dude, we didn't even mention genetics, bro. Like you've said this before, like so many people pick unrealistic goals because someone who's a freak accomplished this. You famously pointed out the picture of Jay Cutler when he's 19 years old. It's like,
yes. Freakazoid.
Dude, I mean, you could work your whole life and not look as good as he did with 4 years of training.
Yeah.
4 years. Okay.
And
so
Christian Bale was in very, very good shape for American Psycho, which was way back when.
Yes.
There was a scene where he's working out in his closet, his big walk-in closet or whatever.
Yes.
And he's in unbelievable shape. He may not be 220 at that point, but he was very lean, very, muscular for the most part for his frame, without going overboard for like a stockbroker kind of guy. He wasn't like a jacked person, but when you see him without a shirt on, he was in incredible shape.
And what does that tell you? What does that tell you? He has the discipline to pull it off.
And the base. He has a great genetic base and maybe a work ethic that he can bounce back to. But question for you, fun fact. How much have you seen Captain America with Chris Evans?
No.
Like the original Captain America? Okay. So there's a scene, you've probably seen the scene in a magazine or whatever, where they CGI him to make him look like a pipsqueak. He's like 5'2", he's got a giant head, he's got like, maybe weighs 118 pounds. Mm-hmm. They CGI that part, and then they put him in the cryo chamber and they give him the super soldier serum, and they finally sit him up and they open the chamber. And I wish I'm going to pull it up next time, but he looks like he's 220 pounds. Gets up, they make him taller than everybody else. Like he looks like a freak, right? He was 170 pounds in real life.
Yep.
Chris Evans, the actor, they make him look like an absolute tank. Mm-hmm. And in reality, he's not that big of a guy. He's 170 pounds, which is not, a massive person. Obviously, not an immense person. He was lean, but to your point, the camera tricks can do a lot.
Oh, dude. How heavy do you think Stallone was for Rocky IV, which I think was his best look?
How tall is he?
That's hotly debated. We'll say between 5'7" and 5'9".
How much did he weigh for Rocky IV?
Yeah.
I would say, 185.
175. So you're not. Right. And he was a little bit leaner and much smaller in Rocky III, where I think he weighed like 160 or something like that.
Wow.
Okay.
He was very lean, but he was definitely not as bulky, as thick.
For sure. Okay. I don't think that Carl Weathers ever weighed more than like 205 in the Rocky movies. Okay. And he's 6 feet tall. He had
Carl Weathers played in the physique.
He played in the NFL. That needs to be. Carl Weathers was an NFL linebacker for the Oakland Raiders when I think John Madden was the head coach. So we're talking about like legit tough guy. Okay.
Yeah.
Not a small person. He was lighter by many. Like I'm 230 right now. Okay. He's 25 pounds lighter than me right now. Okay.
Yeah.
To play that role, but he was shredded. Okay. Oiled up, great lighting, great pump. And I think low-key doesn't get enough credit. Had, I think, the best physique in Predator. If you're asking me who I'm taking his look over Arnold's personally for that film. Okay. It's not retarded to say one or the other. You know what I mean? Like it's
of course it's a toss-up.
They're both great, but but it's only between those two. No one else in that film is in their league. Like they're big guys, but they're not like shredded. Like the scene, you and I watched Predator together before you moved. I remember we got pizza, we watched Predator. And you're just like, when they're pulling the tree, you know, when they're fucking yanking the tree back, dude. Like Carl Weathers is just like, that's serious genetics and training. Like the density and separation in his muscles. That's not a guy that just trained for that role. Genetics
are a huge factor.
That is a
huge factor.
I think that Carl Weathers, if he was born now, okay, or like we'll say 15, 20 years ago, could have been an incredible classic physique competitor. Incredible. Like, I just, at that height, you know, I think 6 foot, 6'1", he would have had to come in on stage at between 230 and 240. If he weighed 205 for Rocky IV, imagine what that dude looks like with 35 pounds of additional muscle if he keeps his waistline small. Super impressive. I mean, you know, just
absolutely
incredible. But to your point, dude, like it's you always forget about that. Like Jean-Claude Van Damme did not weigh over 200 pounds, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, you know,
I've seen that big.
Yeah, but like you look at that, you're like, who wouldn't want to look that way? Anyone would. It's an incredible physique. You know what I mean? But that's a great point. I'm going to start researching for this show every single week, like a Hollywood physique of the week, and be like, how much do you think they weighed? And what did their training look like? Offhand, from my memory, the only guy that I could think of that like the number on the scale, like we're talking famous roles here, was high, but he's very tall, was Dolph in Rocky IV.
What did he weigh?
I want to say like 230, but he's like
what, 6'4",
6'5"?
That's really slender, you know. But he had a very wide shoulder. Well, you know, bone structure.
As you said, greatest Hollywood physique of all time. I mean, you literally, you're on record as saying
I will die on that hill. I will die on that hill. But the funny thing is, I'm not on drugs, obviously, but when I get below 200 pounds, I feel like I'm sick and I'm dying. You know, I could be 199. And for me, I'm only 5'11", you know, 6 foot in shoes. You know, I'm 230 now, but like maybe it's just the body dysmorphia talking. But when I get below a certain weight, I was 215 like a few years ago. I felt, you know, you feel good without a shirt on for sure, right? You feel leaner, you feel a little tighter. But when you throw a shirt on and there's space in the sleeves and there's, you know, it's just hanging off you. I don't know. It's a tricky thing to be happy.
In terms of how you'd feel physically, I think, you know, to bring this to a point for like our audience, like what's actual practical information you could take away from this, like the real difference, I think, for steroids. I mean, look, of course, steroids make a difference if you're bulking, but they make a much bigger difference when you're cutting, in my opinion.
To hold on to muscle on the way down,
absolutely,
and to look fuller, to look more full as you continue to slash body weight.
I mean, dude, it is so. If you get single-digit body fat naturally, like your endocrine system gets really fucked up. Like you need to have fats in your diet for this, and then it becomes like just this exponential like toilet swirling process. You know what I mean? Where it just gets worse and worse because you're not eating enough, you're dieting, your sleep goes to shit. Obviously, when you're dieting, your workouts go to shit, so it means you're going to lose muscle. A lot of bodybuilders start taking like Anavar when they're getting ready for shows just to keep their strength up, to force their body to maintain the muscle, or else like they'll get so weak that they can't move the weight, and obviously the muscle is just going to shrink off. Almost every pro bodybuilder, I mean, all of them. I'm not even gonna make like a qualification here. But the only person that I think was different was Kevin Levrone. And I'll get into why that was different in a second. But like, he might be the most talented person of all time, by the way. But we'll get to that in a sec. They all take more drugs when they're getting ready for a show.
Okay.
Most of the time, they're taking advantage of the rebound of being really lean to a caloric surplus. Okay, and they're going to take less drugs in that window because too much drugs can wreck your appetite. Well, you can't eat, you can't grow. It's
Yeah,
that simple. Okay,
absolutely.
too much drugs, too much weight, too quick can wreck your sleep. You can't sleep, you can't grow. Right. So most guys are going to take most of their drugs when they're dieting. It just
Okay.
fun. You have to keep your performance up somehow. And I think that's a big part of the reason why you saw in the lighter weight classes, particularly, a massive decline in performance post TRT era in the UFC. Right. Because the
Oh
guys
yeah.
they're still cutting the same amount of weight. Okay. Now they don't have this baseline level of androgens that are being pumped into their system. So their test levels are just crashing as they're cutting the weight. I think about the guys that were from the TRT era that didn't collapse. Ironically, Dan Henderson. Dan Henderson was never a big weight cutter.
No, he
He
just
was,
walked around
it was,
close to what he fought at,
yeah,
right?
he was
For
never
the
a
most
big weight
part.
cutter. He preferred to be the smaller guy in the cage in a lot of cases. So, like, he was never someone who was cutting from 230 to make 205. Guys cut from 230 to make 185.
That's
Okay.
outrageous.
To the point, I want you to think about this too, because I would love to hear your input on this. Talk about Jay Cutler. One of the guys who I think was incredibly talented, I mean, I know he was talented, was Kevin Levrone. For the audience that doesn't know, Kevin Levrone was, you can make a case that he should have been Mr. Olympia. I don't know that he ever really did beat Dorian. I think Dorian was a little more complete from the back, especially. Dorian had a better back. From the front, Levrone, I mean, just had some of the best shoulders ever, tight waist. But I think that he would only train 6-7 months a year.
Wow.
He would literally come off drugs, not work out. Okay. And then like and he loved to lift. This is why I loved him so much. He loved to lift heavy. Like for a bodybuilder, heavy sets of 8 or less. Like to him it was like, I'm not growing if I'm not getting stronger. I'm not doing any pump shit. Like basically fuck this.
Wow.
So he would
Nice.
just go on drugs and start training and just like stuff his face with clean food and then like finish second in the Olympia. It's
He's a super
unbelievable.
responder, though. So, from
For
what I
sure.
understand, like a Gordon Ryan, like somebody who looks like an average person. I saw pictures of him pre-contest between Olympias, Levrone, and contest. Within months apart, he looks like a completely different person. He looks
Yes.
like he transforms with the drugs and the diet and the training. But most people have to maintain such a base for so many years, decades, to actually step on stage and be competitive.
Mm-hmm.
So, what a freakazoid.
It's
But for our
crazy. It's crazy when you think about whenever you introduce something to a system. Could be government even. It could be a sport. In this case, we're talking about bodybuilding. It changes what it takes to get to the top of the system. So there are bodybuilders. Probably Jay Cutler would be one of them. Ronnie Coleman for sure would be one of them. That if all PEDs were removed from the sport, they'd still be at the top of the sport.
yes,
Okay, but when you add in steroids, now you're adding in how well do you respond to steroids. Okay, so now maybe, who knows? I'm not saying this is any disrespect to Kevin, because in a way, I think he's probably going to live a long, healthy life because he didn't take drugs 24/7,
yeah,
365.
kudos, right? Good
Yeah,
for him.
yeah. But it's now you're basically kind of controlling for response to drugs. If Kevin Levrone can get the same results from 750 milligrams of testosterone that Ronnie Coleman gets at 1500, that is a decided health and performance advantage. Ronnie can't take that much more drugs. I'm not saying that's what Ronnie took. Okay, maybe he did. He's been open about it. That probably is pretty close to what he took, to be honest with you. But there are guys that take way more, and you wouldn't even know they work out, like in commercial gyms,
Yes,
which is
I know.
crazy.
Scary.
Okay, which is crazy. But like, if Kevin Levrone needs to put his foot on the gas to get in better shape, he could take more drugs and still be well under the threshold of like, I'm going to die. Where we spoke
Yeah,
about Nasser El Somebody. So again, we said 750 a week. Nasser El Somebody took 750 of test a day. Okay. And did not even live to see like 45.
yeah, that's
But like you're right. Kevin Levrone, definitely a super responder to drugs. I think Gordon Ryan, he's been very open about it. I think
yes.
probably is a super responder as well.
I've seen this before and after. It's crazy.
It's crazy too. I mean, it's
Wild.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
That's just the way that it is. Now, with that said, we're going to talk about super response to agonizing pain and stupid decisions. So last week, you dropped a bomb on me. I did not know this, because I'm not in the strongman community, that Mike Jenkins had passed away due to heart issues, probably from taking EPO, erythropoietin, okay, and died in his sleep. Now,
It was a contributing factor.
Yes,
I don't know
for
if it was
sure.
the entire thing. I think his steroid use, I think he had an enlarged heart as well.
He's 400
So
pounds.
I don't want to say, I'm not going to be a doctor here and claim that it was only the EPO that, that did it, but it contributed to the event,
For sure. Now,
unfortunately.
before Mike passed away, you traveled to his gym with a training partner of ours we used to call Moose, and you did a CrossFit Strongman hybrid competition, right?
Yes.
Now, at the time, like, you and I were not as close as we are now, but we were still training partners. Our buddy Moose was one of the best 198 lifters in the world at the time, and he had a CrossFit background. Okay. And I remember you did not have a CrossFit background, like, at all.
Never.
Okay. Okay.
Never.
And I remember he came back and he was like, it's going to take me a month to recover from this competition. Like, he was destroyed, just absolutely destroyed beyond reproach. So I would like you to tell the audience, I want you to tell them the events, but I want you to contrast that with the normal events of a strongman competition. So, like, what are you preparing for in the gym, or preparing to be ready for? Because, as we've said, the events are a shootout. Things change. You never know what it's going to be like when you walk in, okay? Versus, like, what did you get handed on that day?
Let me first give you like the overview and comparison of normal strongman versus normal CrossFit. So CrossFit, people are, I'm sure, very familiar. It's on ESPN. It's, the CrossFit Games. Their WOD, or workout of the day, can be an event that's basically a 10-minute time limit, and you have a number of tasks to complete within that time limit. So you have 50 push-ups, 50 burpees, 50 double under jump rope, run 3 miles, carry a sandbag, and then your clock gets stopped once you complete all the work allotted. In strongman, on the other hand, you're never working for more than, for the most part, 60 seconds. Most events are capped at a minute time limit. There are some events like grip challenges that will go unlimited time limit until you drop the implement, right? But for the most part, for carry medleys, for all the strongman variations, 60 seconds, 1 minute, maybe 90 seconds at most in the amateur ranks is the most you'll be in pain for, and most you'll be committing to work. So they took the strongman weights.
I want to interject real quick for our audience. That's a big deal. Like, mental preparation is a big deal.
Yeah.
Like, if you're like walking in, like, for me to do, say, a grappling match, that's, if I were to do a Masters 2 grappling match at the brown belt level, which is my division, it's a 5-minute match. Okay. If I were to do it at the black belt level, adult open male, it's a 10-minute match, right? Big difference in terms of your pacing, what you're prepared for. Like, I could go out and not really train terribly hard for a 5-minute match and give a good example of my skills, because it's only 5 minutes. Okay.
Yeah.
10 minutes, I got to be ready, and I have to change how I think, my strategy, like your mindset. Like, you need to be prepared to suffer for an allotted period of time, or else it's going to be very overwhelming.
Yes. So the first event was a 600-pound yoke, which by strongman standards, for my body weight, is not very heavy. It's like a warm up, So 600-pound yoke, which is a frame you carry across your shoulders. We had to walk 80 feet, but then you had to do 50 double unders, which is a jump rope where you jump and the rope passes beneath you twice before you land. Okay, so as a strongman, heavier guy, I wasn't so nimble. I never really practiced double unders until 2 weeks prior to this contest, so I was really bad at them. If you're efficient at double unders, they're not too exhausting, right? If you never run before, for the most part, and then you go running 10 miles, you're going to be tanked. So I wasn't very efficient, so they were extra exhausting for me. So I carried the yoke. I struggled hard on the double unders. Then 50 wall balls, with a 35-pound medicine ball, which basically is a front squat with a medicine ball. Then you have to throw the ball up to a 15-foot target on the wall. And then you have to carry the yoke back. So by the time I finished the double unders and the wall balls, I was so mentally broken that I couldn't even get under the yoke. Like I picked it up once and like a baby deer legs. Like I just couldn't walk with it. I just dropped it immediately. And I think I timed out, which was like 10 minutes, by the way. That was a 10-minute mark. And that was the first event. And I was just I was already traumatized by what was going to happen for the rest of the day. Anyway, second event, it was a kettlebell swing and carry and drag medley, which is just to say those things all together in a strongman, it just doesn't make sense. So you had to carry it. First, you had to swing 50 reps to a certain height, which is the kettlebell has to reach your shoulder height at a 100-pound kettlebell, which is a heavy kettlebell. I wasn't that good at swings at the time. I'm better now, but I wasn't that good at swings. I never really practiced them before. So you had to do 50 reps there. Then you had to carry 4 objects that weighed about 200 pounds, a keg, a sandbag, an anvil, different things into a sled that was about 60 feet from you. Then drag that sled back with all the items. Somehow, I completed that entire task in under 10 minutes. I think it was like 8 and change. Okay. I'm really questioning my existence at this point in the contest. I really just want to go home and I want to cry. I was so just demoralized from it. Third event was a 200-pound medicine ball. So in strongman, you usually have Atlas stones, which are firm objects that usually have adhesive, like tacky, what they call it, like a caramel, that's super glue that you can grip onto a firm stone and lift. So in strongman, they have sometimes you go, over the shoulder, where you pull up the stone over on the shoulder and you drop it and you keep picking it up. This 200-pound medicine ball was made of rubber and sand and water and whatever was in it. So it was very squishy and very hard to hold on to. So you had to do 20 reps over the shoulder. All right. Again, you'll never see 20 in strongman, 20 reps. Then you had to flip a 600-pound tire 10 times. And I think I got through the 20-pound, or the 200-pound 20 reps after, it was close to 10 minutes already. And I just had to try the tire once at 9 minutes and 45 seconds. I just had to get under it just to show that I wasn't quitting. So I got no tire flips. And if my memory serves me correctly, because I do think I blocked most of this experience out of my memory for, just so I wouldn't have to be traumatized and wake up in a cold sweat gasping later on, years down the line. So I believe I did not even continue to compete that day, because there's usually 5 events in strongman. So I believe they matched it. There was an overhead press medley that I bowed out of, and there was something else at the end, more CrossFit oriented, that I bowed out of. And I was mentally and physically broken for weeks, just so demoralized. I remember I was dating a girl at the time, and she saw my face when I came back home that day. I came home from the whole day, and she was like, "What the hell happened?" I'm like, "I don't want to talk about it. One of the worst days of my entire life." And that relationship ended shortly thereafter. Not because of that contest, but because it wasn't right. But yeah, so I was in way over my head. And I would not wish that physical agony on anyone, enemy, friend, family. I wouldn't want to see anyone go through what I went through. Granted, there were guys there who could handle the work. They were strong enough. They were conditioned enough. They were heavier CrossFit guys, maybe, mostly lightweight, strong men who were on drugs and who were able to handle that workload. So some of those guys just dropped in, did the whole contest and walked away. And that blows my mind, because to be that strong and to be that conditioned to do those things, like Moose, like you said, he was a world-class powerlifter at 198, but without the cardiovascular to match, the capacity to match your strength in that contest. Oh man, it was, gives me chills just talking about it. Honestly, it was very, very traumatic, to say the least.
One of the things that I do like about stuff like this, as we discussed, we both love frontier sports. I do love it before something becomes standardized. Like, the 2 countries in the world that I would classify as frontier countries are America and Australia. It's like you've got people coming from another part of the world in a strange country with different terrain, different wildlife, and it's just part of the national identity of both countries is we figured it out. We pushed forward. We had no structure, and we're just a bunch of discoverers. And as an American, I really connect to that type of mentality. And so I love it when a sport is figuring itself out. And then I get bored with it when it becomes homogenized and standardized. Like if you watch the NBA now, and you shouldn't, you don't really see a lot of guys that are 6'1" that play anymore. Everyone is 6'6" to 6'9". They all kind of look the same, do the same thing. The days
True.
are gone of like the 7'2" center, the 6'1" guard, the 6'4" guard. Like it just becomes very homogenized. Unfortunately, you're seeing that a little bit in the UFC, but I think the nature of combat sports and the breadth of styles, the breadth of ways to win and lose in MMA means there'll always be someone who comes along, and everything's copycat. Like you'll hear people say like jiu-jitsu doesn't work in MMA, and then Damian Maia shows up, and he's like 37
Sure.
years old, and
Yeah.
he's just strangling people, right? So you're always one great guy away from everyone going to like. For a long time, the meta was like, oh, now it's striking. Well, now Marab, who I've had the good fortune of training with him many, many times at Sarah, shows up, and he's just a conditioning freak with incredible takedowns and just burns everyone down with like a different type of a different version of what Randy Couture was doing 20 years ago, right? So
Yes.
you were partaking in a sport that was figuring itself out, okay? And I think at the time it made logical sense to kind of merge strongman and CrossFit, but I don't know that you see a lot of those competitions because at the end of the day, you kind of have to pick one or the other. Like you said, like if you're prepping, like if Half Thor went from being maybe the number one strongman in the world to, as you said a couple weeks ago, fifth or sixth, just because he's focusing so much on the deadlift, okay, which is a sacrifice he obviously is willing to make, and a sacrifice I think that's worth making. You're not going to be able to be freakishly strong while maintaining the type of conditioning that you need to be able to compete at a high level in CrossFit. It's just not possible.
That's
It's just
exactly right.
it just can't be done. And like I applaud you for getting into it. And I just remember our buddy Moose was such a talented lifter. I mean, I think he totaled something like, and this is like 10, 12 years ago. He's probably still on the all time list, but he totaled like 1850 at 198,
Wow.
which was like, I mean, just an incredible total. And like, and he had a CrossFit background before getting into powerlifting. He did bodybuilding when he was younger, got into CrossFit, and then was just really strong and got into powerlifting. He was like the kind of guy that would have been ideal for, and he was destroyed. I
Yeah.
mean, I just remember. I think our buddy Dom went to the contest with you, and
Yes.
Dom was just like, dude, I'd never seen that look in Moose's eyes before. I mean, he was totally finished. He told me he thought he was dying. I'd never seen nothing like it. And it's like, yeah, for sure, right? I mean, like, it's such an outrageous thing to put your body through, and then obviously, like the recovery from it. Like we were talking before about my trip to Virginia Beach, like one thing I left out was, I really do like running, but I like running when I'm like around nature. I don't like to just pound pavement and be
Yeah.
dodging cars. Like it's just,
I get that.
part of doing conditioning for me is like you get into this zone and it's almost meditative. It's disconnecting from the outside world. You get into this rhythm. And so when I lived closer to Hempstead Lake, I was running all the time because the jog from my house to the lake was about a mile, perfect warm up. Okay. I could do my training and then jog back home a mile, perfect cool down, right? My heart is still probably in similar shape to what it was back then. I'm not as good because I'm heavier, but it's not like a total difference. Point is, I go running Virginia Beach and I decide I'm going to do a hard conditioning workout, and I'm doing like threshold training. So basically, that means I'm keeping my heart rate between 165 and 175 for like 10-minute rounds. And then I would like walk for 3 or 4 minutes and then get it back up. Dude, I felt phenomenal while I was running. I was just sick runner's high, loved every second of it. Bro, my legs are so sore because I
Oh
haven't
yeah.
run. I've been biking, using the elliptical, even using the Stairmaster to not, but like my hips are like sore to the touch. Like I literally could not sleep last night because my hips were so sore that they were waking me up in the middle of the night. And that is nothing compared to what you did in that show.
Yeah. I don't
Nothing.
recall the aftermath, like the pain the next few days. I think it was more my ego was hurt. I think I recovered okay. Again, I did bow out after so many events, but I think I was just so upset with myself that I wasn't even like, I wasn't going to win that contest, and in any lifetime. But the fact that I couldn't even finish it, that was really, because I've always finished the contest, no matter how hard they were, no matter how much the weights were out of my league. I've always finished, and I always were able to post a rep or something in each event. And I just remember, yeah, I think that was the most traumatic part of it was just that I've been training strongman so hard. I eat, breathe, sleep strongman. I thought I was, I think I was almost qualified for nationals at that point. I may have qualified already. I'm not sure if it was before or after that, but it was just such a kick in the stomach, ego wise, to be able to, just get crushed by that contest. But hey, live and learn, right?
Yeah.
And it definitely made me tougher mentally for it because after a few weeks and I dusted myself off, I was like, all right, I'm happy I did it. And it made me thicker skinned and tougher. And I'll never do it again,
For
but
sure.
I
For
will
sure.
definitely take that experience for what it was worth and, grow from it.
This makes you feel any better. Okay. When you take a long road trip, I feel like I love heavy metal, but you can only be like blasting aggressive music for so long while you're driving before it's like, I got to calm the fuck
Before you
down.
burn
Right.
out.
Yeah. So as I'm driving back, I'm like, I'm going to put on, because we were talking about Lance Armstrong last week, and I was like,
Yes.
I'll put on some content about his training or whatever. And I re-listened to the podcast that I told you about him and Peter Attia, and I was impressed with his honesty. He tells a story about after he had come back from cancer. His mindset is like, okay, I had been competing with testicular cancer and didn't know it. And I was at this point still one of the best in the world. So he's like, I beat this cancer. Like, I'm going to kill everybody when I come back. Like, it's
Yeah.
over. So he comes back in 98 and he's doing some multi-day race, not the Tour de France, over in Europe. And it's cold, it's rainy. He's getting dropped, which means getting passed by everyone, And even Lance Armstrong pulled over, got off the bike, and said, "Fuck this, I'm going home." And
Really?
apparently he went home and just started just drinking and eating tacos. And his wife was like, "Look, just fulfill your contract. Don't quit like this." And he actually went back to training, but he didn't do any structured training. He was like, "I'm going to get back to my roots and I'm just going to enjoy bike riding again." And then when he came back, he started killing everyone. He won the Tour de France the next year and he was off to the races. But like, dude, physical pain and the mental humiliation that comes along with not performing at your best, dude, it will break anybody.
Yeah.
And anybody, especially when, like you mentioned a great point, your ego. Like Lance Armstrong goes into this ordeal in 1998 like, well, I'm the man. Like, I was beating guys and I had fucking cancer. Like, this is going to be a joke. And then he gets his ass kicked and it's like, now you're like, am I really the man I thought I was? Like, is this time I'm putting in even worth it? Do I even have it anymore? Like, that's way more painful than a hard workout.
Yeah, it's true.
Way more, and so you go into it and you're like, this really sucks. So for anyone who was like listening to this, and not that anyone would, if you do, just stop listening right now, but anyone who was listening to this and they're like, well, Ian's a bitch, it's like, listen, you've never been in a situation where you trained with people or did a competition and saw that there are levels or differences that blow your mind. Like, through my friendship, and I guess you could say, I'm a student of Jason Rao. Jason has never quite put it together in competition. He'll tell you this. I'm not talking shit about my coach. He's the man, but he's the best coach I've ever seen. Everyone in the world in the jiu-jitsu community knows how good he is. And by virtue of learning under him, I have had the opportunity to train with so many elite grapplers and mixed martial arts fighters. As they come in, they want to learn from Jason. If they're in town, if they're in New York, they want to come in, they want to train with Jay. And a lot of times Jay would reach out to me, hey, such and such is coming down. Make sure you get to class today, And like, here, I'm a 225-pound fit brown belt. Most of the training rooms that I go into that are not filled with pros, I'm easily in the top 20% or higher in that room, and that's just a credit to the fact that I usually stay strong and in shape and because I've had great instruction. But I have trained with guys that made me feel like I've never even done a single round of jiu-jitsu.
That's
And
crazy.
it's like you are completely helpless. Completely. It's like, wow, I put in 10 years to feel like this.
Discouraging,
Yeah,
isn't
yeah.
it?
It's like and
Yeah.
I've felt it over and over. You feel like The opposite, when they're just toying with you. Like, they're letting you use your absolute A game against them and then just escaping with ease. Like,
Yeah,
they sense that their level is so far above yours that in order to make their training time productive, they have to match the worst part of their game with the best part of your game. And you still can't do anything about it. Like, here I
yeah,
am, like, oh, okay, like, and I learned, you don't want to go ape shit with those type of guys because everyone's always out to get them, right? And so, like, if you want to train with really good guys, you have to develop their trust because there are headhunters out there that think like, oh, I'm going to test myself against Jason Rao today, and like
sure.
that's dangerous and it's a problem. But like, I've had guys like, hey, you could turn it up a little bit more or whatever once they realize that you're not a psycho. Or maybe Jay will say, hey, he's a good dude. Like, you can trust him. He's not going to crank a submission should he
Twist
catch
your
you.
arm
Yeah,
off. Yeah,
exactly. And like, man, to just that level of like, you have them in like what you think is like a fully locked heel hook, and they just get out with ease. No even look of agony on their face, no stress, just slip the heel out, and before you know it, you're getting strangled, and you're like, this is unbelievable. So
yeah,
like, there are levels to it. The advantage of me in powerlifting, you dictate your own weights. So, it was never like I go to a meet and they're like 800 on the bar, you got to squat it. I would have died. No question about it. I would have
it's
died.
true.
Okay.
It's
It
true.
was
Strongman not the same way.
you call your weights, you go up. Yeah, there's a humiliation factor. I've done the same competitions as like Kevin Oak, who is a world class lifter.
Oh
He was in
yeah,
my weight class. I mean, just just buried by him. Okay, but it wasn't a situation where it's like, hey, like I said, Oak's gonna squat 800. Like, you're next. Like, I would
yeah,
have bowed out too.
yeah,
You at some point you have to also realize, like, as it stands in the current conditions, not 10 years from now, not 5 years from now, right now, I can't do this. Like, I can't squat 800. I'm not even,
just
you know what I
beyond
mean?
my
Yeah.
capacity.
So
Yep.
for you to be totally exhausted and then you have a fucking overhead press medley, which God knows what that entailed. I mean, we have no idea what that would have
I can't
entailed.
remember.
Yeah.
I can't even recall
Like,
because I just
like, God knows.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
you may have fucking dropped a log on your face and needed fucking new teeth. I mean, this is
I've
on
seen
the
that happen.
table. This is on the table for that
Yeah.
day. There's no question about it. There's no
One
question
thing
about
that
it.
one thing you mentioned makes me feel a little better too is like the whole Lance Armstrong thing. I watched the Canelo fight, Canelo Crawford, the other night. I'm not sure if
Mm-hmm.
you saw it. Canelo Alvarez has been a dominant boxer for over a decade, right? I mean, he has 2 losses on his record, 63 wins, I believe. And this guy Crawford came up and he made. I was watching in disbelief because he really made him look silly. And
Mm-hmm.
it's not many people who can. He wasn't much bigger. He was actually Crawford was coming up a weight class, so he was at a slight disadvantage. It was his first fight at that weight class, but he outclassed him every single round for the most part. He had more significant strikes, more connections. He was more active. Canelo kind of walked him down a little bit, so there was a certain factor of kind of ring control that Canelo had over him and trying to hunt him down, but he just could not get through his defense, and it was really impressive to see. But one of the greatest of all time got made to look like I don't want to say an amateur, but he was completely out of his league, it seemed. And for another boxer to do that to Canelo Alvarez was just mind blowing. It's like I was watching every single round, like, all right, he'll turn it around now. He's just getting the feel for it. He's just figuring out his range, and he just never got momentum on his side.
Did you hear what Canelo had to say after the fight?
That Crawford? I heard him say that Crawford was better than Mayweather.
Yes, and he also said, and he didn't mean this as disrespect to Crawford. He was like, my body just won't do what I want it to do anymore.
Got it.
He's like, it's that simple. He's like, look, like
He's late 30s now.
Yeah, he's like 37, I think, or 36.
Yeah.
I mean, he has been on the scene for so long because he fought Floyd at such a young age. And that was always my thing with Floyd. Like, Floyd, he always fought everyone when they could be had. Like, he fought Canelo very early in his career. He fought De La Hoya at the end of his career. He fought Pacquiao after Pacquiao suffered maybe one of the worst knockouts I've ever seen against Juan Manuel Marquez. Like, and after he had fought Marquez 4 times, and each of them was like impossible to call. Like, whenever people ask me, oh, who won those fights, I always view it as Pacquiao versus Marquez was one really long fight that ended in a knockout.
Yeah.
They fought 4 times.
Just
It was
string them together.
It's impossible to discern who won them. It's completely impossible, and it just ended in a knockout after 48 rounds of fighting, which is like almost literally what it was. So Floyd, he always did kind of like pick his shots. You know what I mean? Like,
Smart guy.
I beat him, but I didn't beat him. I get it, and I think if I was in a sport where CTE was on the table, I'd probably do the same thing. But there's a part of me that likes the Julio Cesar Chavez's of the world who were like, fuck it, let's go. I mean, his record was
the
like
Hagler-Hearns fights where it's just a bloodbath.
Like
from the viewer's perspective, but those guys must have brain damage at this point. I mean, how do you not?
For sure, dude.
From that one fight. If they only did that one fight, they have brain damage.
I mean, Freddie Roach, I don't think he let Pacquiao spar. And at this time, Pacquiao was already in his mid-30s, so it's not like he had a lot of time left. He didn't let him spar for like a year after that knockout.
Yeah.
Because, there was dude, people say this as a means of being funny or hyperbolic. Like, I watched that fight and I was like, he could be dead. That's how bad of a knockout it was. Like, when someone lands in a position that looks like it's physiologically impossible to get into, in that respect, it reminded me of the Gonzaga Krokop knockout.
Oh man!
When Krokop's, it almost looked like his knee was worse off than his brains. Like, you couldn't get into that position if you tried as a conscious. It's impossible. Like, all of the lights have to be off to contort your body in such a way, right? Like, it's almost completely impossible. So
a head kick heard around the world.
Unbelievable. I mean, again, if you told me that took 5 years off his life, I'd believe you. Then again, not being hyperbolic, like, he probably shouldn't have trained for 2 years after that knockout.
That was ferocious.
But I agree. There are levels to it. And if you haven't felt that in training, no matter what your sport is, you probably haven't tried hard enough. It just, if you haven't really wanted it enough to get to that next level and be like, oh man, like I have to either really get better or I have to understand, like, there's just another tier of person that I might not be because of the level of talent out there. It's that simple.
Yeah.
Like the Kevin Levrone thing, like, internet wasn't really around back then. You just had muscle magazines or whatever. So much more comes out on these guys now. Everyone's got a podcast. Everyone's talking about it. But, like, to look that good and train 6 to 8 months a year, come totally off draw.
It's a gift. You can't have any illusions. It's just people are gifted and they find the right sport that they're meant to be in. And I just wonder what would happen if he didn't stop.
So I think about that too, man. It's interesting. He says, and I think I agree with him, that he just would have gotten catastrophically injured. He just said that he just trained too hard. He just loved to lift heavy. He was not someone who was going to go in and just get a pump or something. He wound up having knee problems when he came back about 10 years ago. Like, his legs were in really bad shape because he just couldn't train his legs like he used to because his knees were all fucked up, right? But, like, if you look at someone who also liked to train heavy, like Dorian, he was getting mentally burnt out, but, like, injuries threw him out of the sport. I mean, he tore his bicep, his tricep. I think he tore the bicep on the other arm. I mean, at a certain point, when you like to train that hard and you're doing it for that long, you're on that much drug. So the weights that you need to move, it's not like, a guy that could get hypertrophy results from benching, 225 for 8. At that level, you're doing 500 on the incline. Like, it's just the joint stress.
It's crazy.
And you're just one, bad spot away from annihilating your shoulder, right? I mean, it's very, he claims that he just doesn't think he could have done it at all had he trained all year long, and
the way he trained, though, because Jay Cutler trained lighter and achieved ridiculous physique, It's just, like, I think it's a preference more than, like, what your body needs. I think if most bodybuilders trained more like Jay Cutler, they'd have better, longer careers, maybe better physiques. I don't know if you need the heavy. I think part of the ego drives Ronnie Coleman's 800-pound deadlift. Was that for his physique or was that for his mind? I think
it's so hard to pick, though, man.
I don't think the deadlift, for bodybuilders' sake, is worth an 800-pound pull to add extra pounds of muscle. If you're going for physique, train for physique. Those guys got away with it because they were so strong, but now they're paying the piper. These days, some of those guys who train so heavy for so many years are so beat up. Their bodies are ruined, actually ruined, where they have four joints replaced, and they can't even walk still.
Yeah.
So was it worth it? Could you have achieved the same, if not a better physique if you trained a little smarter or lighter or higher reps? We'll never know, I guess. But
I also feel like there's an element of, I've seen this enough times where some people just won't do it at all if they can't do it their way, right? Like they're just not capable of, pulling up on the reins. Like that analogy that you're saying, it definitely applies to like Vanderlei Silva, right? These guys in the shoot to box camp were like full gym wars, like 6 days a week. But
yeah,
if you had told
yeah.
Vanderlei don't train that way, would he have even trained at all? I don't know, right? I mean,
Yeah,
it's
his
a
spirit, the
weird
fighting
thing.
spirit, he needed that, intensity all the time, and some people aren't so methodical.
Yeah, and so there's an element of that, but I agree. And Jay Cutler is definitely the one guy. Well, there's definitely more, but he's the highest profile guy that shows like you can train hard, get obviously great, in his case, elite world class results, and still be like mobile and functional and healthy later in life. Like you see him walking around, he's like 230 now, single digit body fat still,
Looks
looks
great.
great.
Looks
But
great.
most importantly, he's getting around from place to place okay. He's not like Ronnie is in really, like you said, he's in really bad shape. Really, really bad shape. But supposedly, I'll leave you with this. He kept trusting the same imbecilic surgeon to operate on his back over and over again, and the guy kept fucking up.
Was that the case? Is that why he's so mangled? Because
Supposedly.
oh, that's
Okay,
sad.
so like
That's so
he's just like a
sad.
trusting dude
He
that
had
just
like a
like
loyalty to that guy, that surgeon.
yeah.
Oh my
I'm listen,
God, what a
no
tragedy.
question that the workouts didn't help. I mean, I remember at the end of Ronnie Coleman's career, because he lost the Olympia to Jay after years of battling with Jay, but he hung on for maybe 3 more years after that. And one of his lats was noticeably atrophying at that point. Okay. Noticeably. And I think he said that he had hurt his back. It was either squatting or deadlifting, let's be honest. Okay. And I think it was just a case of like the nerve damage finally getting so bad that the muscle just turned off. Right. It
Yeah, I've
just
seen that
wasn't
happen
going
a
to
lot,
work.
actually.
Yeah. Yeah. It happens. So like I agree with you. There's definitely like a middle ground that you have to find. And if you don't find it, you could be in trouble. Like it simply is what it is. And I think we've realized that your middle ground was not the CrossFit Strongman competition from
Safe
2000,
to say.
whenever. Yes,
Safe to say.
for sure. I mean, I'm all out of material for this week. What else do you have for us, my friend?
Yeah, man, that's perfect. I think that was great. Right.
All right, guys. This is the Iron Road signing off. We'll be seeing you next week. Thanks so much for listening, and have a great week, friends.
Take care.